All right. Hey, y'all, welcome. I'm so glad that we could all be together on this Friday afternoon in February of 2021. We are meeting today with Mayor Woody Washam. He is going to complete this segment of interviews for this portion of the Black History Month project. I'm just going to give a brief overview of what we've done so far, and then I will hand the mic over to Lisa Mayhew Jones, and she will be our interviewer. So we have been covering Smithville from a historic standpoint in the past 2 or 3 weeks. We've been doing research about the origins of Smithville, and we've been talking to about 10 or 12 residents in an interview setting to hear their memories about the past and tell us all of the rich stories of the 5 generations that have lived in this area. And so we are compiling these interviews into a video segment that we're going to release on February 20th. And it will include pictures of the past, pictures of the present, and then we will dub in some quotes from some of the residents and some of the other leaders in town. And so that is why we have Mayor Woody Washam with us today. Woody Washam is serving his second term right now as mayor. So he's been mayor for 4 years here. And before that, he was mayor pro tem on the town board for another 4 years. So he has been in our town government for 8 years now, but he has been in Cornelius his entire life. He is a lifelong Cornelius resident, and he has a great vested interest in our town, and he's just a great mayor. So we are here to ask him some questions. And Lisa, take it away.
All right, thank you. First, I want to say, Mayor, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And I want to put this on the record first, and no, people may not agree, but I really do feel that you are a mayor for the people. You are, when I tell people that I have your cell phone and can call you and you answer me, you don't get that from political figures. And thank you so much for being the mayor for the people. And you are really concerned. And thank you so much. So I'm going to start with our first question. And then you can, before you answer it, if you want to say a couple of things before, that's fine. We don't mind. But here is my first question, Mayor. What are your recollections of Smithfield from a very young age?
Oh, thank you, Lisa. That's a great question. But let me say first, I've been part of this Black History Month celebration for so many years now, longer than the number of years I've been elected, because it's just such a pleasure. And it takes me back to my childhood to see all the wonderful families and all the wonderful presentations that you have every year, and you do such a good job with it. So that's just very stimulating to me, and it does connect me with my long and I think rich past in growing up in Cornelius. But my grandmother kept me as a child while my mother worked down at the Bank of Cornelius, and she lived right there on Catawba Avenue. Just it's actually right across from the current library there, and that's where I spent a lot of my wakening hours as a child. And I could walk to Cornelius School and all that good stuff. But as the residents from Smithville would walk down that sidewalk, and yes, it was there back then. It wasn't a dirt road. Catawba was paved, and but they would walk by her house as I would sit on the vast front porch, and always wave, always friendly, always had something to say. Sometimes would come up and sit down with me, and some over my age, and we would play and talk and chat. And as we got older, I would recognize some of these folks as they entered into North Mecklenburg High School, where I went. But they were headed down the street to Cashin's Food Store, the original Cashin's, to the library, or on down to Mayhew's grocery store, or Maud Harrell's Five and Dime, where OTPH is now, and on down to Fred's Shoe Shop, and that's where you could buy the penny candy. And goodness, he had quite a collection down there. It was a joy to walk down there, on down to the Tree of Knowledge, which many of us heard about, and Proctor's SO station back in the day, Al's Diner, and the Bank of Cornelius, where my mom was. So many reasons. We had a fairly robust downtown going back in the day, which we hope to rebuild again one day. A lot of folks are working on that. But it was just a joy to see those folks. And then they would come back. They would walk back down the street, stop and talk again if I were still out there. And just fine, friendly people. I could call their names, but this interview would go on and on if I got into that. But wonderful folks that I cherish having a relationship with growing up.
Okay. Well, can you recall, what do you remember about the community of Smithfield during that time? What do you?
Well, Lisa, it didn't look a lot different than it does now. There were more houses there because many have been torn down now. There were more folks living there actually back in the day. It was a larger population. There was a little store out there, a barbershop. I remember Ozzie Rivens and, think of him fondly. All the years he spent down at Cornelius School. I can remember when Union Bethel Church had a different look to it, and years later they added the new front and the steeple on top. So I just remember that fondly. It was the entranceway into Cornelius, and when Smithville ended, so did Cornelius back in the day. It would intersect a short distance from there into Highway 21, and but beyond Highway 21, it was farmland. It was the Catawba River. Lake Norman was not there back in the day. I can barely remember that as a young child, but it's changed a lot over time, certainly west of Smithville. But Smithville hasn't changed to the extent that I think we would all like to see it improve, I think, for today's times.
Okay. My next question is, I know you attended North Mac, and I'm going to ask you what year, not trying to tell your age, but what year did you graduate? And that, I think the year you graduate, it may have been the first year of integration. And so tell me what you remember about that.
Well, I absolutely will, because I remember it fondly. What I remember the most about it was we were at that time a huge high school. North Mecklenburg became probably the biggest high school in the state, or close to it, with the influx of the students from Torrance Lytle. And it was a different world. It was difficult. It was difficult on them. It was different for us. It wasn't as difficult on the folks that had been there, but it was a whole new population there at North Mecklenburg High School. And I do want to say that Mr. W.A. Huff, the name of the current school here in Cornelius, I was so proud when they named that school after Bill Huff. What a fine man. But he guided this process of integrating North Mecklenburg High School with such a skilled hand. I know he'd never been through it before, but what a great man. He's certainly an icon to me in my lifetime, and I think we can look to his values to learn quite a bit from. So certainly a tribute to continue that name here in my town.
Okay. All right. The next question, Mayor. Our research has indicated that many mortgages originated from Smithfield from the Bank of Cornelius, which you had strong ties there. Can you just tell a little bit about that?
I sure can, and that's such a true statement. Actually, my mom worked there for 35 years or so, past the time where it actually merged with a larger bank, First Union National Bank back in the day, which is where I got my beginnings in my banking career. But my mom probably made many of those loans because it was different back then. Folks would come into the bank, and you made loans based on people's character and their trust and their ability to pay back. There was a high degree of trust going on there. So So there were loans made all over this town and all over North Mecklenburg County from the Bank of Cornelius. And I like to think my mom certainly had a hand in that.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. Okay, my next question is, Mayor, let me ask you this. How do you think the relationship with Smithfield and the town of Cornelius is, you know, over the years? What do you think the relationship and how it is right now?
Well, I think it's improved. When I first became an elected official, honestly, Lisa, it wasn't what I expected it to be and wanted it to be. So we've worked on it. I worked on it a lot as Mayor Pro Tem. I didn't miss many of your Smithfield Community Coalition meetings, as I think you'll recall, and I learned a lot. What I have learned from you and Ron Potts and Sammy Knox, and the list goes on, Mick Potts, you know, the list just goes on, is incredible. And I'm very, very grateful for you and others having patience with me and helping me understand a lot of things that I didn't know. And, you know, what you were faced with and what your community was faced with, and how we could have really done a better job in the town of Cornelius and taking care of you along the way. But I think we've corrected some of that communication. Are we where we want to be yet? Absolutely not. It's an ongoing work that certainly I'm committed to see through as long as I'm mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to ask you, what are your hopes in the future for Smithville, Mira? What would you like to see?
Well, there's a need for redevelopment. I now understand totally what gentrification is. I don't know that I knew that word 8 years ago, but I'm very aware of it now, and I don't want that for Smithville. You bring a historic element to our town that is unique. It's truly unique. Actually, you're probably one of two original historic African-American communities in the county. And we want you to be better, but we don't want you to go away and fade into history. That is not acceptable to me. But we got some work to do with development plans and town support, county support, state support, private support, and so forth. And I'm committed to help you see that through to whatever point we can.
Oh, okay. I'd like to ask you this question, which I know you are, but are you aware of the plans presented by Willie Jones and Neighboring Concepts?
I really am. And I was at the meeting at Union Bethel Church the night where it was presented to the community. And I was truly in awe of what I saw. I think it's a great plan. I think Darrell Williams and others in his company did a fine job in developing that plan. I know it's traveling around now, getting exposed to your community, and I can't wait for us to get on with the elements of that plan that the community is committed to. I certainly want your streets connected back there. I think that would be a first step to give you better access into your community, and the town is certainly committed to help you when the time's right.
Okay. Can you talk about the progress of the recent work of the current housing committee?
I sure can. Folks will see very soon, actually on this coming Monday night, which is February the 15th, a presentation from our community housing committee is what we call it. And you will see Smithfield taking a major place in that presentation. You know, you folks have gone through a plan. You had a good experience with it. My mission with this committee is to support affordable housing, not only in Smithfield, but everywhere in Cornelius, because 85% of the folks that work in Cornelius don't live in Cornelius. They live outside of it. And you know, you want your police officers and your firemen and your employees and folks that are working here in every element of job in our community to be able to live here if they want to live here. So we got to do better with affordable housing. And this 15-member committee did a fabulous job. And that presentation will warm your heart, I think. And I hope you'll be there for it. I think you will be.
Yes, I will be. I will. And Mayor, this is the last question. I want to ask you this. And I know that your goal is to definitely do affordable housing within Cornelius area. I got that part. But my question to you is, if this plan doesn't go through and help Smithfield, what do you think will happen to Smithfield?
Well, this plan will go through and help Smithfield, or it won't get very far. Once our commissioners support it, one of the things it will do, it will lead us into a townwide plan, which Smithville will be part of it, which will give us access to all sorts of funding that we don't currently have. So unfortunately, things all boil down to money in terms of making things better. And this is a whole different world of access to funding for Smithville as well as the entire community. So that's the thing I'm excited about the most. But Smithville certainly will not be left out of that. They'll be a significant part. And actually, you'll be in the front of the line because you've got a plan that's evolving as we speak, and you'll be ready to go when the funding is in place. And we finish that process, which is pretty soon. We've gone through this committee in a record amount of time, in 5 to 6 months. And we now have our presentation and recommendation to the town board to move forward. I hope they'll back me up on this one.
Wonderful. Well, before we leave and finish this interview, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I just like to think there's some special people in the leadership of the Smithville Community Coalition that have truly hung in there over the past 8 years I've been involved. And you've worked really so hard. There's been frustrations, there's been high points, and there's all in between. But you hung in there, and that's the key. And we're so close now. And but I'd like to thank you and certainly Ron Potts, who I've known much of my life, know his whole family, and Willie Jones, and certainly Pam to his side. I've worked with Pam on many community relations matters, and John Quinn. I hope I didn't leave anybody out, but Sammy Knox is another one. Just find folks that are committed to make the Smithville community best it can possibly be, and I'm excited about that for you and for our town.
Yeah. Mayor, thank you so much. We really, we really do appreciate it. And I, like I said in the beginning, I do know the relationship has changed. I do know it's different. And I do feel that it will continue to change and get better. And it's people like you that will continue to and make that happen. I know we have our issues, and I know, Mayor, when I'm coming to a meeting, I hear Andrew, I'm throwing him on here. We didn't even interview him. Oh, here comes Lisa. That's a good thing, though, but it's not always bad. And right. I really appreciate it. I thank you for everything. And just to even be able to have a mayor to reach out and call when there's a pandemic and we got an issue going on, and you jump on board and you help us get that COVID testing, you were in with that. But to be able to have political figures that are really involved and invested in a community and the residents, you just don't know how much that means. And we greatly appreciate you so much. And thank you so much again. Thank you. And I'll see you Monday.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for everything.
Jess, I'm gonna turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, this has been a great interview. This has been a wonderful project, Lisa, that we're on the home stretch, and we got to get in the editing room and really make a nice presentation this year for our virtual tour. And as soon as times improve where we can all meet at the park and do an actual walking tour and invite anybody and everybody to come and hear the stories again, we'll be doing that. So That's all I got. And thank y'all again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
guys.
Have a good, happy Valentine's.
Thanks.
Be
You-
Sharon.
y'all I'll tell her. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.